What if I told you that one man, one single individual, actually fought under three of the most powerful forces of the Second World War? That's right. In one of history's most astonishing twists, a Korean soldier named Yang Kyoungjong was forced to fight for the Imperial Japanese Army, the Soviet Red Army, and Nazi Germany. Whether you're a seasoned history buff or simply curious about the incredible stories hidden in the pages of time, this is one tale you won't want to miss. So buckle up, because we're about to dive headfirst into the riveting and almost unbelievable story of the soldier who served three masters during the greatest conflict the world has ever seen. To understand how Yang Kyoungjong's journey began, we have to set the stage in East Asia during the early 20th century. Korea was under Japanese rule after being annexed in 1910. Many Koreans were living under harsh colonial policies, and some were forcibly conscripted into the Japanese military, especially in the lead-up to and during World War II. The year was 1938. Yang Kyoungjong, born in what is now North Korea, was living under this colonial regime. Little did he know fate was about to throw him into the deadliest conflict in human history, on three different fronts. At the age of 18, Yang Kyoungjong was drafted into the Imperial Japanese Army. During the 1930s, Japan was waging a war of expansion in mainland Asia, especially in Manchuria and parts of China. The Japanese military needed a constant supply of manpower, and unfortunately for Yang, he became part of that supply. It's hard to imagine having no choice in such a monumental decision, yet Yang had no real say. If he refused, the consequences could be dire for him and his family. So he donned the uniform of an army that he never truly wished to fight for. Not long after his conscription, Yang was deployed to the tense, frozen front lines near the Soviet border. There, life was a brutal battle of survival, but the worst and most bizarre chapter of his service was just around the corner. In 1939, the simmering conflict between Japan and the Soviet Union escalated around Khalkhin-Gol, a river in Mongolia. The fighting was fierce, and the Soviets eventually outmaneuvered the Japanese. Yang Kyoungjong found himself taken prisoner by the Red Army. If you're thinking this is where Yang's story ends, think again. Because in the early stages of World War II, the Soviet Union was hemorrhaging troops on the Eastern Front against Nazi Germany. The Red Army, desperate for manpower, began conscripting any able-bodied prisoner, including Yang Kyoungjong. Just imagine, you've already been forced to fight for the Japanese Empire. Now you're roped into another massive war machine. Yang was shipped off to the bloodiest front of the war, where the Soviet Union clashed with Nazi Germany in an epic struggle. But Yang's journey was still far from over. Fighting for the Soviets brought Yang to the hellish battlegrounds of the Eastern Front. We're talking about some of the largest and deadliest battles in human history: Stalingrad, Kursk, Kharkov. It was at one of these pivotal confrontations in 1943, often cited as the Third Battle of Kharkov, that Yang's Red Army unit faced off against the Germans. In the chaos, Yang Kyoungjong was captured once more, this time by the Wehrmacht, Nazi Germany's formidable armed forces. The Germans had their own shortage of frontline troops, especially as their campaign in the East turned into a grinding war of attrition. In an ironic and grim twist, the Germans forced many of their POWs to fight under the Nazi banner in so-called Ostbataillonen, Eastern battalions. So for the third time, Yang Kyoungjong was conscripted into a foreign army, this time wearing the field gray uniform of Nazi Germany. Fast forward to June 6, 1944. D-Day. The Allies launched their massive amphibious invasion of Nazi-occupied France. Thousands of Allied ships and planes hammered the beaches of Normandy. German divisions scrambled to defend the coastline. And incredibly, among those ill-fated German ranks was Yang Kyoungjong. Yes, you heard that right. This Korean man, originally conscripted by Japan, then the Soviets, now manned the Atlantic Wall under a swastika he never believed in. During the frenzied Allied assault, Yang was captured yet again, this time by American paratroopers near Utah Beach. Imagine the shock of the American troops who encountered an Asian soldier in a German uniform. At first, they thought he might be Japanese, but soon learned the extraordinary tale. Yang was transported to a POW camp in Britain and later transferred to the United States. The war ended in 1945. After being held in a U.S. prisoner of war camp, Yang Kyoungjong reportedly decided to remain in the West. He later settled in the United States, started a new life, and tried to leave behind the trauma of a war that forced him into 3 different armies. Yang lived quietly, far removed from the battlegrounds that once tore his life apart, and he passed away in 1992 in Illinois. His story remained relatively obscure until recent decades, when historians and war enthusiasts uncovered and pieced together this jaw-dropping saga. The story of Yang Kyoungjong reminds us that history is rarely black and white. Often the greatest conflicts are filled with personal tragedies, forced choices, and unimaginable circumstances. War isn't always about pure ideology. It's also about survival, especially for those caught between warring giants. Although Yang's story has been debated, with some historians arguing that there is no definitive historical record confirming his existence, it has been widely reported as an example of the chaotic brutality of World War II. It underscores how regular people can become pawns in the game of empires and dictators. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more of the most fascinating, untold stories from history. Thanks for watching.